church feels deeply wrong. Countless faithful sense it in their hearts. They look around and find scandals, cover-ups, and sweeping changes to the liturgy that disturb rather than console. Where there should be clarity, there's confusion. Where there should be courage, there's silence or worse, intimidation. Those who raise their voices are quickly crushed, while those who push dangerous innovations advance without resistance. This is the strange reality of the church in America. For many, it seems less like isolated problems and more like an organized campaign. Scandals are concealed instead of addressed. Tradition is dismissed in favor of experiments. Priests who dare to speak are punished, while ordinary believers are left disillusioned, questioning whether their concerns even matter. Some fear that the hierarchy no longer cares about preserving Catholic truth, but only about maintaining influence and approval from the world. At the center of this storm stand the dominant figures, Cardinal Robert Morroy and Cardinal Blas Kupich, the Archbishop of Chicago. They are not remembered for holiness or fidelity to the faith, but for politics, manipulation, and their role in driving the church toward crisis. Together, they embody a new current modernism seeking to rewrite history, weaken tradition, and punish opposition. On one side, Cardinal Morroy, a trusted figure among modernists, is linked to the explosive case of Father Michael Bree, a Washington priest who bravely denounced corruption and cover-ups. His testimony echoed the painful McCarrick scandal, revealing a system of silence and protection, yet instead of justice. Morroy moved to silence him petitioning Rome to strip Bree of his priesthood. Shockingly, the documents never even refuted Bree's claims. They punished the whistleblower, not the guilty. This pattern is familiar. Promises of transparency followed by silence and repression. Once again, those who expose corruption are crushed, while those who enable it remain untouched. On the other side, Cardinal Kupich has become the champion of modernist liturgy. In a September 3rd article for Chicago Catholic, he praised the post-conciliar Mass, but not merely to defend it. He used it as a weapon against the traditional Latin Mass, calling it clerical theater born from imperial court pomp without meaning. For countless Catholics, such words were devastating. The Mass of the Saints, the Mass that formed centuries of faith, reduced to an empty show? It was nothing short of an attack on Catholic identity. Kupich's goal was clear: to legitimize tradition, isolate those who love it, and present them as enemies of progress. The faithful were left wounded, mocked for their devotion, treated as if their love for the Mass was a threat. So here we are, one cardinal silencing priests who expose corruption, another rewriting liturgical history to destroy tradition. Different methods, same result: truth suppressed, tradition ridiculed, the faithful betrayed. Yet Catholics are not blind. They see the silence, the manipulation, the power games. They know this is not the church Christ asked for. They see priests punished for honesty, while bishops who spread confusion are elevated. They watch as the faithful are treated with contempt while corruption is tolerated. The case of Father Bree shines as a warning. A priest who did what the church always claims to want, telling the truth, was punished, not heard. His fate hangs in the balance. If he is expelled, not for sin, but for courage, the message will be unmistakable: stay silent or be destroyed. Meanwhile, Kupich's campaign against the Latin Mass reveals the larger agenda: erase centuries of tradition, recast it as corruption, and push forward a liturgical revolution. But Catholics know the truth. The Mass of the ages is no superstition. It is the anchor of the faith, sanctified by saints, defended by martyrs, preserved through centuries, so the faithful resist. In parishes, in homes, in families, they fight to keep the faith alive. Young priests quietly learn the traditional liturgy despite opposition. Parents pass down the prayers of the Mass to their children. Ordinary Catholics refuse to surrender. The stakes are not small. This is not merely about preferences. It is about fidelity to the deposit of faith itself. If tradition can be erased, any teaching can be rewritten. If centuries of worship can be mocked as superstition, nothing is safe. Rome, meanwhile, is silent. Pope Leo XIV speaks of openness, but so far continues the same policies. The faithful wait to see whether he will confront figures like Morroy and Kupich or allow the crisis to deepen. The future of the church cannot depend only on Rome. It depends on the faithful, on their courage, their prayer, their willingness to defend truth even when leaders fail them. The battle is not in palaces, but in parishes, families, and hearts. For in the end, this is not just a fight over liturgy. It is a fight for truth itself, and truth cannot be silenced forever. The crisis facing the American church is not just about a few bishops, a few scandals, or a few liturgical disputes. It is about the soul of the church itself. At stake is whether Catholicism will remain rooted in the faith handed down through the centuries, or whether it will be reshaped into something unrecognizable. Molded by modern ideologies and political convenience, the faithful understand this. They are not naive. They know that what is happening is not accidental. The silencing of priests, the rewriting of liturgical history, the suppression of tradition, these are not random acts. They follow a pattern, a deliberate movement. And yet, despite the darkness, a light still shines. Across America, pockets of renewal are growing. Families gather to pray the rosary together. Young Catholics rediscover the beauty of tradition. Small communities keep the Latin Mass alive, even under restrictions. Priests, though pressured, quietly study the ancient liturgy and teach the truth with courage. This quiet resistance is not about rebellion. It is about fidelity to Christ, to His church, to the faith of the saints. These Catholics are not trying to start a new church. They are simply trying to preserve the one they received. The hierarchy may continue to silence voices like Father Brie. They may continue to mock the Mass of the ages. They may believe that, through intimidation and control, they can reshape the church, but history shows otherwise. Every attempt to suppress the truth has ultimately failed. Every effort to bury tradition has only led to its rebirth with greater strength. In the coming months, the faithful will watch closely. They will see whether Rome chooses courage or compromise, whether it stands with truth or with power. But no matter what happens, they will not abandon the faith. Because in the end, the church does not belong to cardinals or bishops. It does not belong to politicians or to modern ideologues. The church belongs to Christ, and Christ has promised that the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. This is why the faithful continue, even in betrayal, even in confusion, even in pain. They continue because they know the truth is greater than the lies. They continue because they know the Mass of all time will never die. They continue because they believe that fidelity will outlast corruption. And so, while scandals rage and repression spreads, the faithful kneel before the altar, sometimes hidden, sometimes persecuted, but always faithful. They know that this battle is not just about today, it is about eternity, and they refuse to surrender. The struggle now unfolding in the American church is more than a conflict of opinions. It is a clash of two visions, one that seeks to dilute the faith until it pleases the world, and another that holds fast to what has been handed down through centuries. Cardinals may hold positions of power, but power is not the same as authority. True authority flows from truth itself, and the faithful know when that truth is being betrayed. They know when leaders protect corruption instead of confronting it. They know when the sacred liturgy is mocked, reshaped, and stripped of its reverence. This is why so many Catholics feel abandoned, not because they doubt Christ, but because they see His representatives acting as politicians rather than shepherds. They see bishops managing public image rather than guiding souls. They see the church treated as an institution to be controlled, not as the bride of Christ to be defended. But history is clear. Whenever leaders falter, the faithful rise. The church has endured emperors, revolutions, betrayals, and even corruption from within. Each time, it has been the faithful priests, families, ordinary men and women who have carried the torch of truth through the darkness. And that is what is happening again across the nation. Young Catholics are discovering the treasures of tradition their parents never knew. Families, weary of confusion, are building their lives around the old prayers, the old devotions, the old Mass. Priests, some quietly, some boldly, are refusing to let the sacred be forgotten. These are the seeds of renewal, growing quietly, beneath the surface, even as the hierarchy tries to suppress them. The faithful understand something the modernists do not, that the church cannot be rebuilt on novelty, on compromise.